Welcome back to the Better Not Bitter podcast. I am your host, Maya Warren, and it is so good to have you with me again. Today, I'm going to be talking about my migraine journey and giving you insight to how it all started and where I am now and what I've learned in the process. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I started to develop headaches here and there freshman/sophomore year of high school. And they weren't fully chronic yet, and they were barely acute. And I would get this headache, and I would end up missing class the entire day. And it got to a point where I would fall asleep in class, which is something I've never done. And it was kind of strange because I never really was the type of student to get in trouble. But I remember being in math class and I just got done taking a test and I'm waiting for everyone else to get done. And I was just like, my head was bobbing. That's how exhausted I was, but I couldn't understand for the life of me why I was so exhausted and why I was getting these headaches that were causing me to miss class. So during this period in time, to treat those headaches, I would take like an ibuprofen or a Tylenol, and that would usually do the trick. Well, over a period of time, as I progressed through high school, I noticed that ibuprofen ain't cutting it all of a sudden. And it was very kind of frustrating because I was the type of high school student who was heavily involved in a lot of activities. I was a part of Human Relations Club, the Poetry Club. I was in jazz band. I played basketball. You name it, I pretty much had my hands in it. I was in HOSA. I was just all over the place. And I noticed that these migraines or these headaches, at the time, I thought they were just becoming a nuisance. And so I was just kind of like going through the motions, taking ibuprofen here and there, even though I was starting to have to take more. So it went from me taking one pill to two pills. And eventually going to appointments with my pediatrician and trying to figure out what in the world's going on. So we get to, I want to say, December-ish of my junior year in high school. And it was this particular night I remember, but there's some parts of it I don't remember by nature of developing migraines. So I was in a game and we were playing this specific school and we were beating them by 66 points. And I remember coach had just put me in and I remember running to go get down on the block because I played forward position. And as I'm getting ready to get on the block, all of a sudden the room just like closes in on me and I'm feeling dizzy and my head hurt so bad. It felt like there were African drums beating against my skull and like my brain was just out of whack and angry with me. And so I started getting shortness of breath, even more so than, asthma or just being involved in the game. But it was like a different type of shortness of breath. And I just remember feeling unsteady and I call a timeout and coach pulls me out. He's like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm not okay. And the last thing I remember that night is sitting on the bleachers with my grandmother and my brother and some of the teammates talking about how the other team wanted to meet us outside, catch us outside because we had beat them so bad. Ever since that night, the migraines became more developed, or the headaches became more developed to the point where it was undeniable that I was dealing with something different. So I went to my pediatrician. And we're thinking, okay, well, maybe we need to decrease some activities. So I quit basketball and I laid some other things down just to kind of mitigate maybe some stress levels that I was dealing with, but that didn't help. So we continue trying to figure out what's going on, what I need to change so that I don't have to be on some medication. And it gets to the point where my pediatrician has done all that she can do on a professional level, and I get referred to the I almost said meteorologist, the neurologist. So I go for my first appointment, and this is over a lengthy period of time. This is not like overnight. But I finally get an appointment with the neurologist, and I remember just being kind of frustrated because I couldn't understand what was going on and why all of a sudden this was happening. And it was just really interfering with my academic performance, my, my extracurricular activities. It was just really starting to affect a lot of the things that I had going for me. So I meet with my neurologist for the first time, and she explains to me, yeah, we're gonna monitor you and see how things go. I'm gonna give you some tips on what to do. I'm gonna prescribe a prescription level ibuprofen, and we're just gonna see what this is over a period of time. So I tried not to take the ibuprofen that much because, one, you don't want to take NSAIDs that frequently. I won't go into that. That's a whole nother video for another day. But from a health standpoint, that's just not healthy. And it can cause a lot of problems later down the road. But I took it when necessary. And I took that and Benadryl, hoping that, the Benadryl would help mitigate some of the allergy symptoms that could cause me to have these headaches. Because around this time, I was also dealing with frequent sinus infections. So we go through this period of time where I'm kind of on trial to see what's going on. And it gets to the point where these headaches are getting more frequent. They just keep coming. They just keep coming. And I'm becoming more drained in class. And I ended up falling asleep in my health science class. And my teacher walks up to me. She's like, are you okay? Because that is just, it's not like me. And now that I think about it, that was one of the first signs of the magnitude of what I was dealing with, but I just didn't know. So eventually, meet my neurologist, and she's like, yeah, you have chronic migraines.